Hey. Sorry I'm late. The snow is really coming down out there.
Don't worry about it. I just got the coffee.
Have you ever been one decision away from missing the most important person in your life? That's exactly what happened to me 5 years ago when I almost canceled a blind date that would change everything. If you've ever wondered about the thin line between fate and coincidence, stick around, and if this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories that might just make you believe in second chances. It was a Tuesday evening in October, and I was exhausted. The kind of bone-deep tired that comes from working 60-hour weeks for months on end. My startup was in its critical phase. We'd secured initial funding but were burning through cash faster than anticipated. I'd been surviving on coffee and takeout. My apartment was a disaster zone of unwashed dishes and laundry, and the last thing I wanted was to make small talk with a stranger my well-meaning friend Mia had insisted I absolutely had to meet. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the text message I'd drafted. Sorry, need to rain check tonight. Work emergency. It wasn't entirely a lie. There were a dozen urgent emails I could be answering instead of wasting time on what would inevitably be another awkward first date leading nowhere. My last relationship had ended 8 months ago, and the 4 dates I'd been on since then had ranged from mildly disappointing to memorably terrible. The coffee shop where we'd agreed to meet was only 3 blocks from my apartment, but even that short walk felt like too much effort. I was about to hit send when my phone buzzed with a message from Mia. Don't you dare cancel on her. She's already on her way and she's nervous too. Just give it 30 minutes. If it's awful, I'll never set you up again. I sighed, deleted my draft, and reluctantly changed out of my sweatpants. Fine. 30 minutes, I texted back. But you owe me. The autumn air was crisp as I walked to Lighthouse Coffee, rehearsing the usual first date questions and planning my early exit strategy. I'd claim an early morning meeting, thank her for her time, and be back home within the hour. Simple, polite, efficient. I arrived 5 minutes late, scanning the half-empty cafe for someone who matched the vague description Mia had given me. She has dark hair and usually wears glasses. Helpful. I was about to text Mia when I noticed a woman sitting alone by the window, a book open in front of her but her eyes watching the door. She wore wire-rimmed glasses and had her hair pulled back in a loose bun, a few strands framing her face. When our eyes met, she smiled tentatively and gave a small wave. As I approached her table, she closed her book. I noticed it was Haruki Murakami's Kafka on the Shore, one of my favorites, and stood to greet me. You must be Daniel, she said, extending her hand. I'm Elena. Her handshake was firm, her smile genuine, and there was something immediately disarming about her presence. I'd expected the usual first date awkwardness, but within minutes, we were deep in conversation about Murakami's magical realism and whether his cats were metaphors or actual characters. She was passionate and articulate, laughing easily and listening intently when I spoke. 30 minutes passed without me noticing. Then an hour. Our coffee cups emptied and were refilled. The cafe began to close around us, and I realized with surprise that I didn't want the evening to end. Are you hungry? I asked impulsively. There's a great Thai place around the corner. Elena checked her watch and hesitated. I should probably get home. I have an early class tomorrow. Oh, you're a student? I asked, trying to hide my disappointment. No, I teach comparative literature at the university. This explained her thoughtful analysis of Murakami. I was intrigued and, for the first time in months, genuinely interested in learning more about someone. Just dinner, I said. I promise not to keep you out too late on a school night. She smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Okay. But just dinner. Dinner stretched into a 3-hour conversation that flowed effortlessly from books to travel, from our childhoods to our dreams. Elena had grown up in a small coastal town, the daughter of a fisherman and a librarian. She spoke 4 languages and had spent a year teaching in Japan. She was funny and thoughtful, with a quiet confidence I found magnetic. By the time we finally left the restaurant, the night had turned cold. I offered her my jacket, and as I draped it over her shoulders, our eyes met. There was a moment, one of those rare, electric moments of connection that can't be manufactured or forced, when I knew with absolute certainty that my life had just shifted course. "I'd like to see you again," I said as we waited for her rideshare. "I'd like that too," she replied, her smile illuminated by the streetlight above us. I watched her car disappear around the corner, then walked home in the cold, not feeling the chill at all. I texted Mia a simple, "thank you," and fell asleep thinking about Elena's laugh and the way she gestured with her hands when discussing her favorite passages in books. Our second date was at a bookstore where a poet we both admired was reading. Our third was a long walk through the botanical gardens, followed by ice cream despite the November chill. By our fifth date, I knew I was falling in love with her. By Christmas, we were inseparable. But our story wasn't without complications. Elena had been offered a visiting professor position in Barcelona for the following academic year, a prestigious opportunity she'd applied for months before meeting me. She'd almost declined it after we started dating, but I couldn't let her sacrifice her career. We agreed to try long distance, though neither of us was optimistic about the prospect. The night before she left, we sat on the floor of her half-packed apartment, surrounded by boxes and the remnants of the life she was temporarily leaving behind. "Maybe this is where our story ends," she said softly, her head resting on my shoulder. "Maybe we were just meant to have these few perfect months." I took her hand, tracing the lines of her palm. "Or maybe this is just the first chapter," I replied, though my heart was heavy with doubt. The first month apart was brutal. The time difference made communication difficult, and video calls were a poor substitute for her presence. We were both busy, Elena with her new position and me with my struggling startup, which was facing a critical funding deadline. There were missed calls, misunderstandings, and moments when giving up seemed like the sensible choice. Then my company faced a crisis. Our main investor pulled out unexpectedly, leaving us weeks away from bankruptcy. I worked around the clock trying to save what I'd built, too overwhelmed to maintain our already strained connection. For nearly 2 weeks, Elena and I barely spoke. One night, delirious from lack of sleep and stress, I sent her a rambling email explaining why we should end things. It was unfair to keep her tied to a relationship that was causing both of us more pain than joy, I argued. She deserved someone who could be present, someone whose life wasn't constantly on the verge of collapse. I sent it at 3 a.m. my time, 9 a.m. hers. Then I finally fell asleep, exhausted and heartbroken. I woke to pounding on my apartment door. Disoriented and groggy, I stumbled to answer it, expecting a delivery or perhaps my concerned business partner. Instead, I found Elena standing there, her hair windblown, dark circles under her eyes, still wearing the clothes she'd clearly traveled in. "What are you doing here?" I asked, stunned. "You're supposed to be in Barcelona. You don't get to decide when our story ends," she said, her voice steady despite her obvious exhaustion. "Not alone. Not in an email." She pushed past me into the apartment, taking in the chaos, the unwashed dishes, the white boards covered in desperate financial projections, the makeshift bed I'd created on the couch to be closer to my workspace. "You're an idiot," she said, but there was tenderness in her voice. "Did you really think I'd let you push me away because things got hard? How are you even here?" I asked, still trying to process her presence. "I took a leave of absence. 36 hours of travel. 3 flights and a taxi." She set down her bag. "I'm staying for 2 weeks. We're going to figure out how to save your company, and then we're going to figure out us." Those 2 weeks changed everything. Elena brought fresh perspective to my business problems, helping me restructure my pitch and connect with new potential investors through her academic network. She organized my chaotic apartment and forced me to sleep regular hours. Most importantly, she showed me what true partnership looked like, standing together in the storm rather than trying to weather it alone. By the time she returned to Barcelona, we had secured new funding, and I had a clear path forward. We also had a plan for us. I would visit her once a month, and we would reassess at the end of her year abroad. The long-distance relationship was still challenging, but now we faced it as a team. We created rituals, Sunday morning video breakfasts, virtual movie nights, care packages filled with books and local treats. We learned to be present even when physically apart. 6 months into her position, Elena was offered a permanent role at the Barcelona University. It came with tenure track and research opportunities she couldn't find at home. She called me, torn between her career ambitions and our relationship. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my apartment, weighing options and scenarios. By morning, I had clarity. I called Elena. "Take the job," I said. "But what about us?" she asked, her voice small across the distance. "My company just secured its series of funding," I said. "We're stable now. I can work from anywhere for at least part of the year." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'll move to Barcelona." "Not immediately, I need to transition things here first." "But within 6 months. We'll try it for a year, and if it doesn't work for either of us, we'll figure something else out." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought we'd lost connection. "Elena? You would do that for me?" she finally asked. "For us," I corrected. "I love you. And after almost missing you entirely that first night, I'm not about to let an ocean keep us apart." 4 months later, I landed in Barcelona with 2 suitcases and a one-way ticket. Elena met me at the airport, and as we embraced, I felt the rightness of my decision in every cell of my body. Living in a new country came with its own challenges. My Spanish was rudimentary at best, and navigating cultural differences while managing my company remotely tested my adaptability. There were days of frustration and homesickness, moments when I questioned whether I'd made the right choice. But then there were evenings walking hand in hand along the Mediterranean, weekends exploring ancient streets, and nights falling asleep with Elena's head on my chest. There was the small apartment we made our own, filling it with books and art and the smell of paella cooking on Sunday afternoons. There was the community we built, a blend of her academic colleagues and my remote work connections, creating a chosen family far from home. A year into our Barcelona life, on a quiet beach north of the city where we'd gone to watch the sunrise, I asked Elena to marry me. The ring was simple, a band of white gold with a small sapphire the color of the sea at dawn. I'd carried it in my pocket for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. When I almost canceled our first date, I told her as we sat on the sand, I was one text message away from never knowing you. Sometimes I think about that parallel universe where I stayed home that night, where we never met, where my life continued without you in it. And I can't imagine it. I don't want to. Elena took my face in her hands, tears shimmering in her eyes. In every universe, she said, I believe we find each other. Maybe not at that coffee shop. Maybe not in that city. But somehow, we find our way to each other. She said yes as the sun broke over the horizon, painting the sky in the same colors as the day our journey began. We married the following spring in a small ceremony on the coast, not far from where Elena grew up. My family flew in from the States, and our friends gathered from across continents to celebrate with us. Mia, who had insisted I go on that fateful first date, was Elena's maid of honor. During the reception, as Elena danced with her father, Mia sidled up to me with a knowing smile. Remember when you tried to cancel? She asked, nudging me with her elbow. I've never been so grateful for your stubbornness, I admitted. You know what's funny? Elena tried to cancel too. She called me an hour before, saying she was too nervous and had too much work to do. I had to practically threaten her to make her go. I watched my new wife laughing as she twirled under her father's arm, radiant in her simple white dress, and marveled at how close we both came to missing each other. 5 years have passed since that first coffee. We've built a life that spans 2 continents, spending part of the year in Barcelona and part in my hometown, where I've opened a branch office of my now thriving company. Elena has published her first book, a collection of essays on cross-cultural literature that has received critical acclaim. We're expecting our first child in the spring, a daughter we plan to raise bilingual, with both our cultures and traditions. Sometimes, on quiet evenings when we're reading side by side in our favorite chairs, I look up at Elena and feel a wave of gratitude so intense it takes my breath away. For her presence in my life. For the family we're building. For all the moments, big and small, that make up our shared story. And it all hinged on that one decision, to not send that cancellation text, to drag myself out of my apartment despite my exhaustion, to give a stranger 30 minutes of my time. Life's biggest blessings often arrive disguised as inconveniences, as interruptions to our carefully planned routines. They require us to say yes when we want to say no, to step outside our comfort zones, to take chances on people and possibilities. So if you're watching this and there's something you've been putting off, someone you've been meaning to call, a chance you've been afraid to take, consider this your sign. The best things in life often wait just beyond our resistance, just past our fear, just on the other side of maybe tomorrow. Don't skip your coffee shop moment. Your Elena might be waiting. If this story touched you or reminded you of your own journey to finding love, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about the moments that change everything. Share in the comments about a time when a small decision led to something life-changing for you. I read every comment and would love to hear your stories too. Until next time, remember that sometimes the best decision is simply showing up.